Most people wouldn't look twice at the rusted, beat-up Mustang parked outside Miller's Auto Repair. The paint was chipped, the tires balding, and the engine hadn't purred in what seemed like years. But for Jack Monroe, it was just another job, or so he thought. What he didn't know was that the car's owner wasn't some broke college kid or nostalgic old man, but a billionaire in disguise, searching not just for someone to fix her car, but someone to fix her faith in people. What happened next would change both of their lives forever. Jack had been working at the same rundown garage in the outskirts of Willow Creek for nearly a decade. Tall, quiet, and always covered in grease, he kept to himself. Customers liked him because he never overcharged, never exaggerated, and always treated every car like it mattered, even if the owner didn't. That morning, he was tightening bolts under a Dodge pickup when the garage bell rang. He slid out from beneath the car, wiping his hands on a rag, and looked up. Standing in the sunlight was a woman who didn't look like she belonged. She wore a plain flannel shirt, faded jeans, and her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, but there was something poised about her. Confident, almost regal, like she was used to boardrooms and grand lobbies, not dusty garages and oil stains. "Hi," she said with a smile. "I was told you're the best mechanic in town." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Well, I guess that depends who you ask." She laughed lightly and nodded toward the curb. "I've got a '67 Mustang that hasn't started in 5 years. Think you could bring it back to life?" Jack walked over and took a look. The car was a mess, no doubt about it. But under the rust and grime, he could tell this car had been loved once. It had good bones. "I've seen worse," he said. "But it's gonna take time. And money." "Time, I have," she said. "Money, I'll manage." Her name, she told him, was Elena. She didn't give a last name, and Jack didn't ask. He wasn't the nosy type. She left the car and walked away, promising to check back in a week or so. As the days went by, Jack got to work. He treated that Mustang like a masterpiece, sourcing original parts, polishing the chrome, rewiring the interior. The more he worked on it, the more it stopped being just another job. There was something about Elena's quiet confidence, her interest in the process, the way she asked about the car's history instead of just the price. It stuck with him. She came by every couple of days. Sometimes she brought coffee. Sometimes just a smile and a quiet, "How's it coming?" They talked about everything but money, music, road trips, even dreams they'd given up on. Jack found himself looking forward to her visits more than he wanted to admit. He was just a mechanic. She was something else. He couldn't put his finger on it, but there was something about her that didn't add up, not in a bad way. In a "what's your real story" kind of way. One night, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Jack finally turned the key. The Mustang rumbled to life, louder and prouder than it had in years. He smiled to himself, then picked up his phone and sent her a message. "She's ready." Elena showed up the next morning wearing that same flannel shirt and a sparkle in her eyes. Jack handed her the keys and watched her climb into the driver's seat. She turned the key, and the car roared. She laughed, a sound so genuine it made Jack's chest ache a little. "You did it," she said, stepping out. "You really brought her back." Jack nodded, trying to hide the blush rising in his cheeks. She just needed someone to believe she was still worth fixing. Elena stared at him for a long moment, like she was trying to decide something. Then she said, "You free for lunch?" Jack blinked. Yeah, I guess." She smiled. "Great. My treat." They walked down the street to a little diner neither of them had been to before. As they ate, Elena asked Jack questions, not about cars, but about his life, his family, his past. He answered cautiously, unsure what she was really after. Finally, he looked up. "What about you? What's your story?" Elena paused, then smiled. "Let's just say, I've spent a long time looking for something real, something honest. And lately, I think I might have found it." Jack didn't know what she meant, exactly. But something about her words stuck with him. He didn't know that a few days later, his entire life would flip upside down. And it would all start with a letter slipped under the garage door. The letter was handwritten, neatly folded, and tucked into a cream-colored envelope with no return address. Jack found it early the next morning, just as he was unlocking the garage. He opened it slowly, squinting at the elegant script inside. "You've done more than fix a car. You've reminded someone of what kindness, honesty, and heart really look like. There's more to this story than you know, Jack. Don't stop being who you are. Come to the address below at 6 p.m. tonight." There was a street name, but Jack didn't recognize it. He spent the day pacing the shop, unable to focus on the two trucks that needed brake jobs or the woman asking about her overheating engine. His mind kept drifting to Elena. The things she hadn't said, the way she looked at him, like she was waiting for him to figure something out. When the clock finally hit 5:30, Jack cleaned up, grabbed his keys, and drove across town. The address led him to an iron gate in front of a sprawling estate nestled in the hills. The kind of place that had security cameras tucked in hedges and a circular driveway made for limousines. "This can't be right," he muttered. But before he could second-guess himself, the gate creaked open. He followed the drive, feeling more out of place with every turn. Finally, he parked beside a fountain and stepped out. The front door opened before he could knock. "Elena," he called out, stepping cautiously inside. The woman who met him in the grand hallway wore a silk blouse, perfectly tailored pants, and heels that clicked softly against the marble floor. Her hair was styled, her makeup flawless. But her eyes, those were the same. Familiar. Warm. "Hi, Jack," she said. He froze. "Wait, what is this place?" "My home," she said simply. "I figured it was time you saw the truth." He looked around, stunned. Crystal chandeliers. Artwork on the walls. A grand piano in the corner. This wasn't just a nice house. This was wealth on another level. "You live here?" he asked, incredulous. "I own it," she replied. "Among other things." Jack's mouth opened, then closed. He ran a hand through his hair. "So, who are you really?" She smiled gently. "My name is Elena Hartwell. I'm the founder and CEO of Hartwell Innovations. We build AI systems, robotics, sustainable tech. We have offices in 6 countries." He stared at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. "But why the Mustang? Why come to my garage like that?" Elena walked toward the window, her voice softer now. "Because I was tired of being seen for what I own. Tired of the fake smiles, the rehearsed flattery. I needed to know if there were still people who treated others with kindness even when they thought there was nothing in it for them." She turned back to face him. "And then I met you." Jack's heart thudded in his chest. "So this whole time, you were testing me?" "No," she said. "Not testing. Hoping." There was a long silence. Jack finally spoke. "I'm just a mechanic." "You're not just anything," she said firmly. "You're someone who sees value where others see junk. Someone who listens more than he talks. Someone who didn't look at me like I was less when I walked in with that old car. Or more, once you found out who I really am." Jack didn't know what to say. Part of him was flattered. Another part was still catching up. "I invited you here," Elena continued, "because I want to offer you something." Jack blinked. "Like a job?" Elena chuckled. "No. Well, maybe later. But for now, something simpler. Dinner. As my guest." He looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, it didn't matter that she was rich or powerful. She was the same woman who brought him coffee, who asked about his favorite road trip song, who stood beside him while he rebuilt her engine with grease on his hands. "Okay," he said, "but only if you let me do the dishes after." She grinned. "Deal." They had dinner in her garden, beneath strings of lights and the soft hum of crickets. The food was fancy, way fancier than Jack was used to, but Elena made him feel at ease. They talked for hours. About childhood dreams. About regrets. About what they'd do if money, or the lack of it, weren't in the way. By the end of the night, Jack wasn't thinking about status anymore. Or titles. Or wealth. He was just thinking about how much he wanted to see her again. And Elena? She already knew she would. But what neither of them knew was that someone had been watching them. Someone who didn't believe Jack belonged in Elena's world and was willing to go to great lengths to make sure he didn't stay. The morning after their dinner, Jack woke up in his tiny apartment with a strange feeling in his chest, like his life had shifted, even if nothing around him had. He tried to focus on the cars waiting at the shop, but his thoughts kept drifting to Elena. Her laugh, her stories, the way she listened, really listened, when he talked about his dad teaching him how to change oil at 12 years old. Around noon, a sleek black SUV pulled into the shop's lot. Jack wiped his hands, expecting a new customer, but when the passenger door opened, his heart sank. A man in a tailored charcoal suit stepped out. He was tall, polished, and wore the kind of watch Jack knew cost more than his entire apartment's furniture. "You Jack Monroe?" the man asked, his tone clipped. "Yeah," Jack said slowly, glancing at the SUV again. The man walked up, pulling a business card from his coat. "I'm Robert Klein. I manage security and public relations for Hartwell Innovations." Jack's shoulders tensed. "Okay, what can I do for you?" Robert smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just a friendly word of advice. Elena Hartwell is delicate, important. Her time, her name, they mean something. She's not exactly in the habit of associating with people like you." Jack's stomach turned. "She told me about last night," Robert continued. "She's impulsive, sometimes. Romantic. But let's not pretend this is some fairy tale." Jack's jaw clenched. "Is that what she said? That I was some project?" "No," Robert said smoothly. "But she will. Eventually. They always do." He patted Jack's shoulder once, patronizingly, then turned back toward the SUV. "Enjoy your little garage, Jack. Let's keep things in their proper lanes." And with that, he was gone. Jack stood frozen for a long time, the card still in his hand. His heart was pounding, not from fear, but fury. Not at Elena, but at the wall Robert represented. The one he thought maybe, just maybe, they'd climbed over together. He didn't call Elena that night. Didn't call the next day, either. 3 days passed. On the 4th, she showed up. Her Mustang pulled into the shop like a thunderstorm rolling in. Elena climbed out in jeans, sneakers, and a ponytail, no silk blouse, no security guard in tow. She marched straight into the garage. "You didn't call," she said. Jack didn't look up from under the hood of an old Chevy. "Didn't think I needed to." "Robert came by, didn't he?" Jack finally met her eyes. "Yeah, he made it clear where I stand." Elena's face tightened. He had no right. "But he wasn't wrong," Jack said quietly. "You live in a world I don't belong in." She stepped closer. "Do you honestly think that matters to me?" He looked at her. "It should." There was silence between them. Raw. Painful. Then Elena said something Jack didn't expect. "You know why I fixed up that Mustang?" He shook his head. "It was my dad's. Before he passed, it was the only time we ever bonded in that car. He used to say, 'Things worth keeping always need work.'" She paused. "You're worth keeping, Jack. And I'm not afraid of the work." Jack didn't respond for a long moment. Then he slowly set down the wrench and turned to her fully. "You sure about that?" She nodded. "Come with me." He followed her, wiping grease from his hands, unsure what she meant. They drove, not to her estate, but to a wide open lot on the edge of town. A for sale sign stood near the road. "What's this?" Jack asked. She turned to him. "Your new shop?" Jack blinked. "What?" "I bought the land. You'll own the business. I'll invest, sure, but it'll have your name on the door. You deserve to grow. On your terms." His voice caught. "Why?" "Because someone once believed in me when no one else did. And I'll never forget what that felt like." She reached into her bag and handed him a set of keys. "And also," she added, smiling, "because I'd really like to keep bringing you coffee." Jack looked at her, at the land, at the future stretching out in front of him like an open road. He took the keys, then took her hand. And for the first time in a long time, Jack believed, not in fairy tales, but in something stronger. Second chances. Some people are born into fortune. Others earn it. But the richest lives aren't about money. They're about connection, honesty, and believing in something more. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe to Comeback Tales, where every story is a reminder that it's never too late to rewrite your ending.